all-body autopsy. Here, the context is not literal but symbolic. The detailed and grotesque autopsy of a corpse serves as a violent metaphor for moral decay, a cold analysis of the abject, and an obsession with the forbidden. Through repulsive imagery such as dissection, evisceration, and putrefaction, the author channels existential anguish, rejection of norms, and a visceral critique of modern emptiness. This is not just a scene of medical horror, it's an autopsy of the soul in a decaying world. To Breathe in a Casket. This song depicts a deeply claustrophobic and existential experience, the conscious awakening inside a coffin, an extreme symbol of entrapment and fear of death. Beyond the physical horror of being buried alive, the lyrics portray absolute panic and final isolation in the face of the unknown, where fear has no face or form, it's simply an overwhelming presence. At the same time, it can be interpreted as a metaphor for emotional or existential stagnation, the feeling of being trapped in a life with no escape, where every attempt at freedom meets immovable barriers. Breathing in a casket is not only a literal image of suffocation, it's a desperate cry from the depths of the human psyche. Mutilate the stillborn. The mutilation of the stillborn can be interpreted as a metaphor for the destruction of innocence, or the absolute rejection of hope in a world perceived as rotten from the beginning. The song portrays an unhinged mind dominated by self-destructive impulses, confronting the listener with the most disturbing aspects of the human psyche. It doesn't aim to glorify violence but rather to provoke a visceral reaction to the unacceptable, as an extreme form of catharsis or existential critique. Intestinal incubation. This lyric dives into biological horror to evoke a sense of invasion, decay, and complete loss of control over one's own body. The parasites devouring from within are not just physical threats. They serve as a powerful metaphor for internal collapse, disease, addiction, destructive thoughts, or even guilt, silently breeding until they consume us. The body becomes a battleground where the invisible, symbolized by the microscopic worms, takes hold of the most vital parts, such as the liver, a symbol of purification and life. The final image, with innards consumed from inside, speaks to a primal fear of being corrupted from within, whether biologically, emotionally, or spiritually. Culinary hyperversity. This lyric pushes bodily dismemberment to the extreme, but rather than being mere gratuitous gore, it can be interpreted as a metaphor for the total breakdown of the human being, both physically and morally. The sick butchery symbolizes a fractured mind that no longer sees the difference between the human and the inanimate, between a body and an object. By likening human remains to culinary ingredients, it grotesquely critiques the objectification of life, treating death and flesh as mechanical, worthless processes. Though disturbing, lyrics like this serve as a mirror to the unacceptable, exposing the darkest, repressed parts of the human psyche and challenging the listener to confront their own emotional and ethical limits. Advanced corpse tumor. Beyond the vividly graphic descriptions of physical decay, maggots, tumors, rotting tissue, the true heart of the song lies in its fundamental question: is there anything after death, or does it all dissolve into nothingness? The coffin becomes a capsule of uncertainty, where the body decays but consciousness might linger, trapped in an eternity of silence and rot. This is not mere gore, it's an anguished meditation on the fate of the soul, identity, and oblivion. Rather than offering answers, the song leaves the listener suspended in doubt and metaphysical horror. Extreme unction. This lyric captures the exact moment of transition between life and death, approached from a raw, distressing, and existential perspective. The fading light symbolizes the slow dissolution of consciousness, with pain lingering as the soul witnessed to the end. The silent prayers reflect a final attempt at redemption or spiritual comfort, yet they fail to ease the agony of the inevitable. Time becomes distorted, seconds stretch into eternity, and the only certainty is the passage into darkness. Death, The title, Extreme Unction, refers to the sacrament of the sick, suggesting that this moment unfolds in full awareness of its irreversibility. It juxtaposes religious ritual against the brutal reality of dying. There is no clear salvation, no comfort, only the unavoidable descent into the unknown. Fermented awful discharge. This lyric pushes the language of decomposition to its limits to provoke a visceral reaction, not just of disgust, but also of reflection on the forbidden and the abject. The desecration of corpses and the use of entrails in a kind of sick, culinary rituals should not be taken literally, but as a hyperbolic critique of the degradation of the human body and the complete breakdown of moral, social, and spiritual values. By presenting death not as a solemn end but as raw material for perversion, it exposes the fear that the body, once stripped of life, becomes irrelevant, manipulable, even grotesquely usable. The fermented awful discharge is an extreme metaphor for oblivion, for the body reduced to waste, and for the utter indifference to post-mortem dignity. Like many lyrics in this genre, it forces the listener to confront the most hidden aspects of the taboo, the absolute rejection of life as something sacred.